Okay, this is really crazy. I'm filming my first Maddy'S Books YouTube podcast, vodcast thing. Hi! Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my podcast if you are listening. My name is Maddie and I read a lot of books. I have been on Bookstagram for almost 5 years. It is my Bookstar anniversary on Tuesday, so I'm honestly like excited but kind of nervous because I feel like 5 years is a lot. And it was about time I entered the world of YouTube and podcasts. So here I am. Happy birthday to Maddie's Books. Let's dive in with a huge reading update. So I'm going to section this and I'm going to start off by talking about my summer reads. So diving straight in, the first book I read this year was Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Now, I say I read it this year, but I did actually start it in December. So I don't know. It's like a bit of a half-half. I count it for my 2025 reading rather than my 2024. Deep End pleasantly surprised me. It was such a good book. Now, Hachette did send me the advanced reader's copy, and it was this gorgeous purple hardcover with blue foil detailing, and it had my name on it. It had, the number copy I received, so it felt really, really special. And I had previously really enjoyed Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I I thought The Love Hypothesis was okay, but I had only read those two books. So I didn't have a lot of high expectations going into Deep End, but I was truly blown away. Honestly, the book is about my two favorite things: swimming and ... I loved the two main characters. I thought their chemistry was unmatched. I felt really immersed in the story, which I feel like you want out of a book. You want to care about the characters, you want to know what is going to happen. And I was actually really invested. So that was great. I would highly recommend Deep End. I loved it. Okay, next up we have Bad Publicity by Bianca Gillam. I received this from Bloomsbury, again, an advanced reader's copy, and I hate to say it, but I really did not enjoy this book. It felt like a chore to read, and even though it had, all of the good elements of a story, like rivals to lovers type dynamic, I didn't feel that dynamic. Like, we were told that they were gonna, be in love and all of that, but it just lacked. It lacked. I think I gave it like a 2 stars. Maybe. Yeah, I hated it. Sorry. Then we were on the up when I read The Vows by Jessa Joyce. Now, again, I'm dipping my toes into new authors for me this year. Had not read any of Jessica Joyce's works before, and I loved The Vows. I cried. It was stunning. It was beautiful. I felt like I was on the vineyard with them. Were they in a vineyard? What was it, a farm? I don't know, something like that. I think it was a vineyard, for their friend's wedding. I loved the cute little cabin scenes. Just everything about the book was delightful. So I highly recommend that. Then I continued with my winning streak when I picked up Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Pardon me if I pronounced her surname incorrectly. This was my second or third Abby book. Maybe it was... I don't know. Anyway, I loved it. It was a 5-star read for me. I cried so many times. I really felt connected to the characters, and I liked how Abby portrayed generalized anxiety disorder in the book, and also the relationship between our female main character and her little brother, because I know that I would do anything for my brother, and it was really nice to see that sibling relationship in there. Next, we have Guild by Raven Kennedy, and I listened to this on audio and I didn't like it. I listened to it when I was packing up my house and cleaning and all of that stuff, so it was a bit of like a mind numbing kind of book in a way. Yeah, I felt like I had clicked on to like a Pornhub audiobook. It was really, really strange. It was basically like there's this king, King Midas, and he has the main character, I can't even remember her name, trapped in this cage because she has gold skin and she's like really precious to him. And he doesn't quite use her as a prostitute, or maybe he does. Maybe he does. I think he just looks at her, which is weird. And she like observes when the king has his sex parties. So it's just like a really strange dynamic. But she's in love with him, but also like not really. So it's just really strange all round. Don't recommend. Next up, we have Swept Away by Beth O'Leary. This was another arc from Hachette, and I read this on NetGalley, and it kind of felt like an episode of Survivor rather than an actual romance novel. Like, imagine if you were trapped on a boat, like a really, really small boat, with your one night stand. How would you feel? What would you do? I mean, there's an obvious answer for what you would do. If all things went well. But yeah, it was just a lot. It was very melodramatic. And I think if there hadn't been the twist at the end, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as I did, because honestly, the book was so stressful. It was really, really stressful. I didn't love reading it, but I was hooked enough to want to know what was going to happen. So I guess that's something. Then I read The Wrong Woman by J.P. Pomare. I'm so sorry, JP. I'm never going to get it right. I am a new fan of his works. I read 17 Years Later last year and absolutely loved it. It was a 5-star read for me and in my top 10 of 2024. So when I picked The Wrong Woman for my book club, Coastal Chapters, I had pretty high expectations. I will say, I didn't love The Wrong Woman as much as 17 Years Later. However, I still really, really did enjoy it. I read it so quickly. I couldn't put it down. I was really invested in the characters. I loved how our detective was a gay man, because I feel like so many detectives are just like the regular, like old, straight, white dude. So it was really nice to have a diverse detective, and there was like a bit of his love story woven into it as well. So that was unique for like a crime mystery novel. Next up, I listened to Her Big Sky Cowboy by Alyssa Callan. Honestly, I can't remember anything. Again, I listened to it while I was cleaning. I think it was okay. I don't know. I wanted to listen to an Elsie Silver audiobook, and my library doesn't have them. So this was what I got. Afterwards, I read Cold Truth by Ashley Callaghan Blunt. I loved her first novel, Dark Mode. That was absolutely phenomenal. It freaked me the fuck out. I was so scared. But I think that's a testament to a good book, and a book that really switches you on and makes you think about things. Cold Truth. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It felt a little bit far-fetched at points. And I think when it came to the big reveal at the end, yes, it was out of the box, but I could still kind of see it coming. And if I guess something in a mystery crime novel and I get it right, I actually don't like the feeling of being right, because I feel like in a really, really good crime mystery novel, I should be wrong, because I shouldn't be able to see it coming. And I kind of did. So I was a bit like, But in saying that, her writing is brilliant. Her characterization is brilliant. The setting was great. It was in Canada. I was reading it in January, February, and I felt cold while I was reading it. So good job, Ashley. Then I listened to Never Ever Forever by Karina May. Now, Karina is a friend of mine, and she kindly came to my Coastal Chapters summer soiree in February. So we're tight. Loved her first book, Duck à l'Orange for Breakfast. This is her second, and she has also written That Island Feeling. She actually revealed at book club that Never Ever Forever was her first book, but Duck was published first. And that kind of makes sense because they were published so close together. A lot of people were like, oh my God, how do you have the time to do this? How does that happen? No, she had already written Never Ever Forever. I listened to it. I didn't enjoy it as much as her other ones. And I think now, with the context that it was her first, that makes a lot of sense. Because Duck was a 5-star read for me. I adored Duck. And That Island Feeling, which I'll talk about later, I really liked that one too. This one was good. It fell a little bit flat for me. I don't know if maybe it's because I listened to the audiobook. Maybe it would be better if I had read the physical copy. I could be a little bit more engaged with the text. I also just didn't like the ending, and that's a personal preference. And looking at a couple of other reviews, some people do agree with me. I haven't talked to Karina about it because I respect her decision as an author to say, you know what, this character and this character, that's that. So, you know what, pop off, queen. Oh my gosh, one of the most exciting books I have read this year is Ritual by Chloe Elizabeth Wilson. Now, Chloe is a writer and researcher at Shameless Media, who we all know and love, and Ritual is kind of like what you would get if you crossed between like go-to skincare or Glossier or Mecca, or like, you know, a really big cult beauty brand with a cult. It was phenomenal. There were so many lesbians. It was great. Oh, hello. Hi, baby. Do you want to be in the podcast as well? Yeah, Ritual was just so different. I read it in, I think, 2 sittings. I couldn't put it down. It was like there were elements of mystery, there were elements of thriller, and I wasn't expecting it. I was hooked. I was so engaged. It was fun to read. It kept me on my toes. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I loved it. I loved it. It comes out in May. You should go and read it. Next, we have Immortal by Sulin Tan. Now, again, I hadn't read her previous works, but now I'm definitely going to because I loved this book. I read it over a couple of days after. Wait, no. I read it in a day after having my wisdom teeth surgery, and I was just lying on the lounge in so much pain. And I was like, I need to escape. I need something to take my mind off of this. And HarperCollins so kindly sent me a copy. I loved it so much. It ended up being the March? Yeah, it ended up being the March book for Coastal Chapters. Pretty much everybody loved it. It was a fantasy romance with Chinese mythology inspiration. I had never read a book with Chinese mythology in it before. I thought it was so interesting, and it was really great because I feel like as a kid, you know, we had the Percy Jackson books. We were surrounded by Greek and Roman mythology, but not so much any Eastern folklore. So I thoroughly enjoyed Immortal. The yearning, the romance, the god of war. Oh, it was just so good. It was just so, so good. I felt like I was watching a movie in my mind. The imagery was so vivid. I wish HBO could turn this into a TV show because it would be phenomenal. Next up, I read Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. Thank you, Alan and Unwin, for sending me an ARC. Now, having watched Nosferatu in the cinemas in January, I was so pumped for Hungerstone because I thought, wow, a sapphic version based on the original text, Carmilla. You know, lesbians, vampires, gothic horror. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Yeah, there wasn't a lot of sapphic romance. It was never explicitly stated that she was a vampire, so you wouldn't have known unless you knew. The setting itself, like the writing was good, but it was good in the sense that it was bleak. So it did kind of suit the gothic tone. And it was very slow paced, which at first I thought was okay. We're building up to something. But honestly, it wasn't really until the last 100 pages when shit started to go down. And I feel like if you have such a slow paced book for like 3/4 of it, and then you just jam pack everything into the last quarter, the pacing just felt off and the pacing felt wrong. So that was not a slay. I think this had a lot of potential to be a really, really great book. But in the end, I was just so disappointed. I was like, what the fuck did I just read? This felt like a waste of my time. And it's such a gorgeous cover as well. So I hate it. I hate it when a book is so pretty, but it's not that good inside. Now we can talk about That Island Feeling by Karina May. This book did feel like That Island Feeling. Like, you know, when you're on a beachy holiday and you go out for a swim and you have a lunch and you have cocktails with fish and chips, and then you come back and you have a little bit of an afternoon nap. The breeze is coming through the window. You can smell the salty air. You get ready to go out for dinner. You're all fresh. You feel great. That island feeling, that island feeling. You're diving into sparkly blue water, crystal clear, fish around you. That island feeling. Falling in love, having a little summer romance, being locked in. That island feeling. It was a fun book. It was an uplifting book. It was a very different tone from her previous books because while this did deal with things like grief, it was for the most part very light-hearted. So if you want an easy breezy feel good romance to read by the water, read That Island Feeling. Now we have The Safekeep by Yael van der Welden, and this book took me by surprise completely in the best way. I knew honestly nothing going into this book. I picked it up because my local indie bookstore, shout out Collins the Rule, recommended it in their December newsletter. And at the start of the year, they were giving 20% off to everyone who bought the book. I thought 20% off, I can get around that. When I tell you that this book was such a unique reading experience, I honestly struggle to describe it in a way. It caught me off guard, and I think if you're going to read it, like, I don't want to tell you what it's about. I want you to go into it not knowing, because I think not knowing brings the joy into it. God, I sound so vague, but just trust me, read it. It was beautiful, and it was such a spicy book. I wasn't expecting it to be a spicy book, but it was. So if you see it and you're like, oh, maybe my grandma could read it, don't give it to your grandma. Don't give it to your grandma. Unless she's like that type of grandma, then like, sure, she'll love it. But otherwise, don't. I listened to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, I read the book way back in 2020 and adored it. It was on my library's audiobook collection, and I just wanted something easy to listen to. I was familiar with the story, and I really did like the narration. I thought the narration was good. I will say I do still prefer the physical copy rather than the audio. However, for Daisy Jones and the Six, I prefer the audio over the physical copy because of the multicast narration in that one. Moving on, we have The Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. This was the sequel to The Crimson Moth. Now, I loved The Crimson Moth. Witch hunter, witch, enemies to lovers, you know, kind of like old school fantasy settings. It felt magical. I felt like my love of reading was reignited. It was like so nostalgic to the types of books that I read when I was a child. And I loved it. I loved The Crimson Moth. I had high hopes for The Rebel Witch. And I hate to say it, but it did not deliver. It felt really rushed. The magical element just wasn't there. the romance that we had in book 1 was so different from book 2. It really just fell flat for me. And again, similar to Hungerstone, everything that happened in Rebel Witch was so quick at the end. I swear it was like within the last 50 pages. And now I understand that it is a YA book, but young adults are smart. Young adults are clever. They are switched on. You know, it just felt like such a, like, I'm going to tie the bow up really neatly and really quickly. So it was just kind of shit. But then, as a palate cleanser, I picked up Perfume and Pain by Anna Dawn, and I loved this book. It was laugh out loud hilarious. It was like sapphic satire at its best. I could have tabbed a million quotes. I loved it. You know, it's just like the chaos of being a gay woman in California, you know, having situationships, falling in love with your neighbor, problems with your roommate, the identities that come up. It was just so good. It was just so good. And I feel like the people who have not enjoyed Perfume and Pain either, like, they're not really in the queer community, so they're not necessarily the primary target audience, or maybe they didn't realize that it was supposed to be a satirical novel, because it was amazing. I can't remember if I gave it a 5 stars or like a 4.5, but either way, I loved it. I loved it. That was everything for my summer reading wrap up. This was a rapid fire reading wrap up. If you are interested in any of the books that I talked about, go look them up. Go look at your library. I think definitely the books that I would buy out of these would be Deep End, The X Vows, Yours Truly, The Wrong Woman, Ritual, Immortal, The Safekeep, and Perfume and Pain. Books that I would borrow: Cold Truth, That Island Feeling, and The Rebel Witch. And then books that I wouldn't even bother with are the ones that I basically said that I just kind of hated. Thank you for watching, listening to my rapid fire summer reading wrap up. God, that's such a tongue twister. What has been your favorite book of the summer? Yeah, same. Okay. Catch you on the flip side.